The Mystical City of God, the Incarnation, Book 3, Chapter 24. The Venerable Sister Mary of Jesus of Ágreda describes the day the Blessed Virgin Mary left the house of Zachariah and Elizabeth.
304. At the call of Elisabeth, Saint Joseph, the most fortunate of husbands, had come in order to attend Most Holy Mary on her return to her home in Nazareth. On arriving at the house of Zachariah, he had been welcomed with indescribable reverence and devotion by Saint Elisabeth and Zachariah, for now also the holy priest knew that he was the guardian of the sacramental treasures of heaven, though this was yet unknown to the great patriarch Saint Joseph himself. His heavenly spouse received him in modest and discreet jubilation, and kneeling before him, she as usual, besought his blessing, and also his pardon for having failed to serve him for nearly 3 months during her attendance upon her cousin Elisabeth. Though she had been guilty of no fault, not even of an imperfection in devotedly fulfilling the will of God in conformity with the wishes of her spouse, yet by this courteous and endearing act of humility, she wanted to repay her husband for the want of her consoling companionship. The holy Joseph answered that as he now again saw her, and again enjoyed her delightful presence, he was relieved of the pain caused by her absence. In the course of a few days they announced the day of their departure. 305. Thereupon the Princess Mary took leave of the priest Zachariah. As he had already been enlightened by the Lord concerning her dignity, he addressed her with the greatest reverence as the living sanctuary of the divinity and humanity of the eternal Word.
My mistress, praise and bless eternally your Maker, who in his infinite mercy has chosen you among all his creatures as his mother, as the sole keeper of all his great blessings and sacraments. Be mindful of me your servant, before your Lord and God, that he may lead me in peace through this exile to the security of the eternal peace which we hope for, and that through you I may merit the vision of his divinity which is the glory of the saints. Remember also, O Lady, my house and family, and especially my son John, and pray to the Most High for your people.
306. The great lady knelt before him, and in profound humility asked him to bless her. This Zachariah hesitated to do and instead asked her to give him her blessing. But nothing could overcome the humility of her who was the teacher of that virtue and of all holiness, and therefore she troublesomely persisted in asking the priest for his blessing until he yielded to the impulse of the divine light. In the words of Holy Scripture he said to her,
The right arm of the Almighty and true God assist you always, and deliver you from all evil. Psalm chapter 120 verse 7. May you possess the grace of his unfailing protection, and be filled with the dew of heaven and with the fruits of the earth, and let him give you abundance of bread and wine. Genesis chapter 27-28. Let the nations serve you and let the generations worship you, since you are the tabernacle of God. Sirach 24:12. Be you the mistress of your brethren, and let the sons of your mother kneel in your presence. Those that praise and bless you shall be honored and blessed, and those that bless and extol you not be cursed. In you let all nations know that God, Judith 13:31, and through you let the name of the Most High God of Jacob be glorified.
307. In return for this prophetic blessing, Most Holy Mary kissed the hand of the priest and asked him to forgive her the faults committed in his house. The saintly old man was much moved by these parting words of the most pure and amiable of creatures, and ever thereafter bore hidden within him the memory of the mysteries revealed to him concerning the Most Holy Mary. Only once, when he was present at a meeting of the priests in the temple, who were congratulating him on account of the birth of his son and the restoration of his speech, he was moved by the excess of his joy and he answered them,
I believe firmly that the Most High has visited us and has already sent us the promised Messiah, who will redeem his people.
But he spoke no further of what he really knew of the mystery. The holy priest Simeon, however, who was present and heard these words, was seized with great joy of spirit and by divine impulse exclaimed,
O Lord God of Israel, let not your servant depart from this valley of misery before he has seen your salvation and the Redeemer of his people.
To this prayer he afterwards alluded when he received Jesus into his arms at the presentation of the infant God in the temple, as we shall see later on. Until that event took place, he desired more and more ardently to see the incarnate Word. 308. Leaving Zachariah in tears, Mary betook herself to her cousin Elisabeth. As she was a cousin of Mary, of a tender heart, and as she had enjoyed so many days of sweet intercourse, and had received so many favors of the Mother of Grace, she was almost overcome with grief at the mere thought of now losing the source where so many blessings had flown from and were yet to flow, if she could only retain it. Hence, when the time for taking leave of the Mistress of heaven and earth finally arrived, her heart was torn with sorrow, and she could say only a few words amid her copious tears and sighs revealing her inmost soul. The serene Queen, being superior to all inordinate movements of the natural passions, in affable modesty spoke to Elisabeth.
My beloved cousin, do not grieve so much over my departure, since the charity of the Most High, in whom I truly love you, knows no distance of time or place. In him I behold you, and I keep you in my mind, and you also will find me in that same presence. Short is the time of our bodily separation, since all the days of human life are so fleeting, Job 14:5, and if we gain the victory over our enemies we shall very soon see ourselves and enjoy ourselves in the celestial Jerusalem, where there is no sorrow, no weeping, no separation, Revelations 21:4. In the meanwhile, you will find all blessings in the Lord, and also me you will find and possess in him. He will remain in your heart and console you.
Our most prudent Queen said no more to allay the grief of Saint Elisabeth. Instead she knelt down at her feet and asked her blessing, and her pardon for what might have been disagreeable in her intercourse with her, nor would Mary yield to the protests of Elisabeth until her petition was granted. Elisabeth then insisted on her part, and asked the blessing of the Heavenly Lady in return, and not wishing to deny her this consolation, Most Holy Mary complied. 309. The Queen visited also the child John, received him in her arms and bestowed upon him many mysterious blessings. The wonderful infant by divine dispensation spoke to the Virgin, although in a low and infantile voice.
You are the Mother of God Himself, the Queen of all creation, the keeper of the ineffable treasure of heaven, my help and protection. Grant me your servant your blessing, and may your intercession and favor never fail me.
3 times he kissed the hand of the Queen of Heaven, likewise he adored the incarnate Word in her virginal womb, and asked him for his benediction and grace. The infant God manifested his pleasure and benevolence toward his precursor, while the most happy Mother Mary beheld and understood all that was passing. In all things she acted with the plenitude of divine science, venerating all these mysteries according to their proper import. For she responded with a magnanimous heart to all the works of his divine wisdom. 2 Maccabees 2:9. 310. The whole household of Zachariah had been sanctified by the presence of Most Holy Mary and of the incarnate Word in her womb. All its inmates had been edified by her example, instructed by her conversations and teachings, and sweetly affected by her intercourse and modest behavior. While she had drawn toward herself all the hearts of that happy family, she also merited and obtained for them, from her most holy Son, the plenitude of celestial gifts. Holy Joseph was held in high veneration by Zachariah, Elisabeth, and John. For they had come to know his high dignity before he himself was yet aware of it. The blessed patriarch, happy in his treasure, the full value of which he did not know as yet, took leave of all and departed for Nazareth. What happened on the way I will narrate in the following chapter. But before they began their journey, Most Holy Mary, on bended knees, besought Saint Joseph to bless her as she was accustomed to do on such occasions, and after she had received his blessing they betook themselves on their journey. The instruction by the Most Holy Queen Mary. 311.
My daughter, the happy souls which God has chosen for His intimate friendship and perfection must keep themselves in continual readiness and peace, in order to perform all that His Majesty may ordain without hesitation or delay. That is what I did when the Most High commanded me to leave the beloved retreat of my house and betake myself to Elisabeth, likewise when He ordered me to return. I obeyed in all these things with joyful willingness, and although I had received so many benefits from Elisabeth and her family and so many tokens of love and friendship, as you have seen, yet knowing the will of the Lord, I set aside all obligation and my own inclination and followed them only so far as was strictly demanded by charity and compassion, and in so far as the promptest obedience to the divine command permitted. 312. My dearest daughter, how will you not hasten to obtain this true and perfect resignation as soon as you know its vast value? How pleasing it is in the eyes of the Lord, and how profitable for your soul. Labor then to attain it in imitation of me, as I have already so often invited you and urged you. The greatest hindrances toward its attainment are the leanings and special likings to earthly things, for these make the soul unworthy of the caresses of the Lord and of knowing fully His will. And even if the soul knows His will, the base love of unworthy things will keep the soul from fulfilling it. For on account of its inclinations, it will be wanting in the ready and joyful obedience required by the Lord. Take notice of this danger, my daughter, and do not allow any particular affection to enter into your heart, for I wish that you be well versed and perfect in this art of divine love, and that your obedience be that of an angel, and your love that of a seraphim. Thus show yourself in all your actions, for to this my love urges you, and thus are you taught by the knowledge and light imparted to you. 313. I do not say that you must do away with all sensible feeling, for that is not naturally possible to the creature. But whenever you meet adverse happenings, or when you are deprived of what is useful, necessary or agreeable, you must bear it with joyful resignation and give praise to the Lord, because His will is being fulfilled in your regard. By seeking only His pleasure, and considering all else as of passing moment, you will gain a quick and easy victory over yourself, and you will seek all occasions to humiliate yourself under the mighty hand of the Lord. 1 Peter 5:6. I also exhort you to imitate me in my esteem and veneration of the priests, and that you always ask their blessing before speaking to them and in leaving them. Do this also in regard to the Most High before beginning any work. Toward your superiors always show yourself devoted and submissive. If any married women come to seek your advice, exhort them to be obedient to their husbands, Titus 5:2, peacefully subjecting themselves, living retired in their houses and carefully fulfilling their obligations toward their families. Tell them not to give themselves up entirely to their occupations, nor to lose themselves in their daily cares on pretext of necessity. For much more must be trusted to the goodness and liberality of God than to one's own immoderate bustle and activity. In whatever happened to me and my condition, you will find true instruction and example, and my whole life will be an example of perfection for the guidance of souls, and therefore I will not need to give you further direction.